Have you ever thought about investing in the stock market but always held back for some reason? Perhaps you're worried about losing money, or you don't have enough money, knowledge, or time to make that first step. Well, in today's video, we're going to smash through all of those excuses and finally get you up and running. I'm going to help you destroy investment fear and get you invested in the stock market. Look, I get it. When I first looked at investing in the stock market 10 years ago, I practically pooped my pants. I was so worried about losing money or not being able to access it. The whole thing made me feel sick. I mean, there are so many options to choose from, so many technical terms and platforms. How are you supposed to know what to pick? But I went for it. I set up a direct debit for 50 quid a month. I closed my eyes. I held my breath. And within a few short minutes, I became an investor. I calmly sat back, took a deep breath, and started checking the stock price for movements every 30 seconds. After 6 days of no sleep, I decided to let the fund do its own thing. I couldn't control the price, so there was no point worrying about it. I emptied my sick bucket and I got on with life. After 6 months or so, I felt different. I felt like an investor. I was far less concerned. So I doubled my contributions and invested in another fund. Shortly after that, I doubled them again. I couldn't believe I was about to admit this, but investing was fun. Almost as fun as hitting that like button. Almost. Within a few short years, my mindset had totally shifted. I saw market downturns as buying opportunities. I would deploy more money when the stock price went down, effectively getting it at a discount. And if the stock price went up, then I'd celebrate the win by watching my portfolio go up in value. I couldn't lose. I was now investing around $3.5 grand a month without any concern about loss or access. And in this video, I want to share how I got to that point, so you can too. This is my case for why everyone should be invested in stocks and shares. Not financial advice. Oh, and stay tuned until the end of the video to find out more about my first subscriber giveaway. You're already losing. Cash is not necessarily king. In 1972, a loaf of bread would cost you 9 pence, and today it will set you back around £1 and 8 pence. That's an increase of 1100%. If you kept £1,000 in a safe in 1972, and then you took it out 50 years later, you'd still have £1,000. Yes! Didn't lose a penny. Are you sure about that? Your £1,000 could get you a lot more in the 70s than it can today, because the price of everything goes up over time. So your money is worth less over time. In 1972, you could buy 11,111 loaves of bread with your £1,000. Bread. In 2022, you could only buy 925. Not as much bread. That's a huge drop-off. And now factor in all the life essentials like housing costs, transport costs, and cheese. Yeah, well, I'm not going to eat bread on its own. That's insane. The increased price of everything going up over time is known as inflation. In the UK, the government has an inflation target of 2% a year. Over the last 50 years, the average inflation rate has been 5.4% a year. So that means on average, stuff costs 1,300% more back then than it does now. My point here is you can't just sit on your hands and do nothing. Inflation is eating away at your money every single year. Within the last 30 years, you had to make sure your money was growing by at least 2.7% to ensure you were keeping up with the increased cost of living. But we want to go beyond just getting by, making sure that we're getting wealthier over time. So how do we do that? Well, first, let's take a look how not to do that. Cash savings accounts. The best easy access savings account in the UK is currently 0.8%. And if you lock your money up for 3 years, you get a whopping 1.9%. Banks just aren't cutting it at 0.8%. And I don't want to lock my money up for 3 years to get a measly 1.9%. Banks are businesses. Store, don't invest. Only use bank accounts to store cash for future expenses. So I use easy access savings accounts to store my emergency fund, to save up for large annual one-off bills like tax, insurance, or Christmas, and for other things that I really value like holidays, personal development, and cheese. Look, banks are great for securing our money and ensuring we've got easy access to it. But once we've saved up for everything that we need, invest the rest. So if banks can't keep up with inflation, what are our options? How to smash inflation in the face in 3 steps.
Smash.
Number 1, destroy debt. If you've got any credit card debt or loans, make sure you pay those down first before looking into investments. By paying down debts, you're effectively investing at that interest rate. Number 2, monitor your mortgage. Now personally, I'm not a fan of paying off your mortgage early, but it's a better option than letting your cash rot away in a bank account. I suggest that you look at the terms, look at your interest rate, and do the maths. Now my mortgage rate is 1.83%. So rather than using my spare cash to pay down that debt, which effectively saves me 1.83%, I use that money to invest in property, which I can make at least 30%, maybe over 100% instead. So which would you prefer, 1.83% or over 30?
Oh no.
Tough call. I actually increase my mortgage wherever possible and use that money to buy more assets. But more on that in a future video. Number 3, acquire assets. I use spare cash to invest in income producing or capital appreciating assets like business, property, crypto, or stocks. Business and property require a lot of time and knowledge to get started, and in some cases you need lump sums of cash too, but the returns are unbelievable. They stocked and slap inflation and will catapult you to financial independence. But when you're just starting out in these assets, the barrier to entry is really high. Crypto is the future, whether you understand it or not. It's pretty straightforward to get started, but it's extremely volatile, it isn't regulated, it lacks security, and isn't tax efficient. So for those reasons, I wouldn't recommend it to a new investor. If someone asks me what to invest in to get started, I always recommend stocks. And here's why. Easy peasy. You can learn how to do it well in less than an hour. Passive play. Set and forget. Once you set up your monthly direct debit, you can just ignore the market and get on with the rest of your life. No ongoing work required. Low monetary commitment. You can invest with as little as 25 quid a month, and most people can afford that. You can increase or decrease the amount later on, or you can invest one-off lump sums whenever you come into money. Tax efficient. You can invest in tax efficient vehicles like ISAs and SIPs in the UK, or their US equivalents, the Roth IRA and 401k. Any income and gains that I make within my stocks and shares ISA are tax-free for life.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Well, technically I can. Security. If your stocks and shares ISA or SIP provider goes bust, the FSCS will protect you for up to 85k per account, as long as your provider is FCA regulated and your accounts aren't connected. To be clear, I recommend everyone invest in business, property, crypto, and stocks. But when we're just starting out, we want to make it as easy as possible. So once you've invested in stocks and you feel you've got some experience and comfort with that, you can then start branching out into the other asset classes. Investing in stocks, the first step. I find investing in stocks really nerve-wracking to begin with, and you might too. So before we dip our toes into the water, let's try and diminish some of that discomfort. The longer you play, the more you win. Most people don't invest in the stock market because they're afraid of losing money, and for good reason. These stats are based on the returns of the S&P 500. Which are the 500 biggest companies in the US. Think Apple, Google, and Tesla. On a daily basis, over the last 94 years, the S&P 500 was positive 56% of the time and negative 44% of the time. On any single day, the stock market is like a casino. There's a very slight edge in your favor, but the odds aren't great. When you extend the time horizon to holding the investment for 20 years, it eliminates all doubt. 100% success as long as you don't sell. If you're in any doubt about an investment, zoom out. Only invest for the long term. If you think that you may need some of that investment money within the next 5 years, then don't invest any of that money. Keep it in the bank. So I saw a similar table to this around 10 years ago when I started, and it really filled me with confidence. I knew that if I was investing for at least 10 years, then I was going to win 95% of the time. And I like those odds. I was a 30-year-old. I was prepared to invest for like 50 years, all being well, and I was guaranteed to succeed as long as I didn't sell. Don't sell. Once invested, you'll hear every reason under the sun as to why there's just about to be a stock market crash. Here's a chart showing you why you should sell over the last 12 years. Every few months, there are events in the news that made the market drop. These stories strike fear, but they're just noise. Yes, your investment might have dropped 10 to 30%, but as you can see, every significant drop has recovered in time. Just look at that chart and its direction over 12 years. That line tracks a 582% gain, or 15.9% a year. Take that, inflation. If you're prepared to invest your money for at least 5 years, ideally 20, and you won't sell regardless of any noise you hear, and you hit that subscribe button, you'll have successfully bulletproofed your brain for investing in stocks and shares. Now we just need to decide where to put the money.
All right, put the money in the bag.
The next step, where to invest. Number 1, select tax vehicle. In the UK, we have stocks and shares ISAs and SIPs, which are very similar to the US, where you have Roth IRAs and 401ks. In the UK, you can invest up to 20 grand a year in a stocks and shares ISA, and you can withdraw it whenever you like. You can invest up to 40k in a SIP, and you can withdraw that when you're 55 or 57 in 2028. Now, I prioritize the stocks and shares ISA over the SIP because of its easy access. You can get access to your money at any point, and that's more important to me. As a rough guide, the closer you are to 55, the more you can prioritize the SIP. So if you're aged between 16 and 44, I personally would prioritize the ISA in an ideal world, or when you watch all my YouTube videos. you'll be able to do both. Number 2, select investment platform. Back in the day, we'd have had to have gone and hired a stockbroker. Nowadays, it's all done online. Selecting an investment platform is very much like selecting a supermarket for food shopping. They mostly offer the same stuff, they just charge different rates. Now imagine if you had to pay at the door to go into a supermarket. If the fee was low, you probably wouldn't care which supermarket you went into. The higher the fee, you'd probably consider your options. If you're in the UK, I recommend checking out this post by Monovator. I'll put the link in the description. It compares all the popular ISAs and SIPs on one handy table. They also have a column on the far right suggesting what the platform's good for. Now I've opened accounts with H&L, iWeb, Interactive Investor, Fidelity, and Vanguard. So if I had to pick one, I'd go with Vanguard. It's the cheapest and easiest for beginners. Now, if I wanted to explore more funds, which isn't needed, I'd go with Fidelity. Vanguard's annual platform fee is 0.15% a year. Fidelity's is 0.35% a year. Now, on a £1,000 investment, you're looking at a difference between £1.50 and £3.50 a year. Meh. But on a £100,000 investment, you're looking at a difference of 150 quid versus 350 quid on exactly the same fund. And that's a lot of cheese taken off the table.
That's it, cheese. We'll go somewhere where there's cheese.
Now, when you're starting out, it doesn't really matter which one you choose, but the more money you put in over time, you might want to consider that platform fee. Just pick one for now and get started. You can always change provider later on. Select a fund. Finally! Financial advice I can act on. Now it gets interesting. Not financial advice. Look, I'm not responsible for your decisions, okay? It's not your fault. I can't offer financial advice. I'm a middle-aged wig-wearing YouTuber, not a financial professional. You need to do your own due diligence and take responsibility. In this section, I'm going to show you the funds that I invested with and some of the funds I know many other people invest with. But please, don't follow me blindly and do your own research. Vanguard funds. Now, I'm not sponsored by Vanguard, nor do I care if you use another provider. But this is why I like Vanguard. The founder, Jack Bogle, transformed the face of the investing world. Investment companies are usually owned by outside shareholders, but Jack structured the company so it was owned by its own investors. So instead of paying dividends to external shareholders like many other investment companies do, Vanguard pass on their profits to their investors in the form of lower fees. You pay less and keep more. Fund 1. US Equity Index Fund Accumulation. This fund has 4,085 stocks and an ongoing charge of 0.1%. The S&P 500 tracks the 500 largest companies in the US. This fund tracks over 4,000 in varying sizes. Past performance doesn't determine future results, but this fund has increased by 80% over 5 years and 331% over 10. That's an average annual return of 16% and 33% respectively. Traditionally, the US has outperformed the rest of the world for a number of years. Many people think that the US market is overpriced and won't grow as fast as the rest of the world for the next decade. Now, they could be right, they could be wrong. The truth is, no one knows. Here's a global alternative. Fund number 2, FTSE Global All Cap Index Fund Accumulation. This fund has over 7,100 stocks in it, and it has an ongoing fee of 0.23%. So this is a newer fund than the US alternative. Its 5-year return is 57%, which averages out at just over 11% a year. Now, the previous returns haven't been as strong as the US fund. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the case moving forward. If you take a closer look at the market allocation of the global fund, you'll see almost 60% is based in the US anyway. Because the biggest companies in the world are based in you know where. Now, if you compare the top 10 holdings of each fund, you'll see 9 out of 10 are the same company. One slight difference. The top 10 in the US fund make up 24% of the total allocation, whilst the global top 10 is just over 14%. So what does that mean? If the top 10 companies do well, the US fund will outperform. If these same funds do poorly, then it will underperform. Make sense? The minimum monthly direct debit in Vanguard ISA is £100 a month, or £500 as a one-off investment. That's for either fund. If £100 a month is a bit of a stretch and you don't have 500 quid laying around, then save what you can each month until you have 500 quid and chuck it in. I'll throw another one at you. Both funds can be purchased in Fidelity's ISA for as little as £25 a month. There are no excuses for not investing. Common concerns. Question: I'm worried about losing money. Remember, if in doubt, zoom out. The longer you play, the more you win. Investing for 5-year periods has previously led to 88% positive returns. The cheat code is getting 100% returns by investing for over 20 years. Always go long. Question: what if I need that money for a future expense? If you feel like that, you haven't saved up enough cash. Put more money in your emergency fund. 6 to 12 months is usually more than enough. You should only invest money that you don't need. Once you've invested it, it doesn't exist. Write it off.
Forget about it.
This money is set aside for the future you. Question: I've got 10 grand spare. Should I put it all in an investment right now or drip feed it in monthly? Vanguard did a study in 2012 where they compared doing lump sum investing with monthly contributions, also known as dollar cost averaging. They found that lump sum investing beat dollar cost averaging about 2/3 of the time. If you're a numbers person, lump sum investing has won 2/3 of the time. So the chances are you've got a slight edge by putting it all in now. The blue light's run out. One sec. Actually, I can't do that either. There's just no light now. Oh well. If you're risk averse or worried about losing money, just go with the monthly contribution option and put in, say, £832 a month for 12 months to make up the 10 grand. Are these the best returning funds out there? No. Are there some less risky options? Yep. The aim of this video is to help you with progress, not perfection. Let's just get you started with investing and get that monkey off your back.
Do it! Just do it!
So if you've subscribed to the channel and you'd like a free 30-minute coaching call with me to discuss anything from business, investing, or rubbish weak blue lights, then leave a comment below. I'll be picking one lucky subscriber who leaves the funniest comment in the next 7 days. If you've not subscribed, it won't count.